From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm Vasilios. That is Sean Fazende. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, and review. You can find us wherever you listen to and watch your podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the bell notification button. You get a notification every time we upload a new podcast. We ditched the table in front of us.
Yes.
In favor of a short coffee table right here. I think it gives a little bit of better look, Sean.
A little bit of a cozy feel. And look, this is just the next step in the evolution of this podcast. More changes are on the way, but we promised you guys at some point we were going to have a little bit different look to the podcast. Hey, if you got a comment on the new look, be sure to leave it below in the comment section or wherever you get your podcast, however you want to get it to us, final word feature, whatever the case may be. Yeah. But yeah, baby, we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Slowly but surely, we're getting there. But one thing that's not changed is we are still here to deliver some Saints content that hopefully you guys have been paying attention to and listening to, because there have been some significant developments with this team, and we've been kind of riding shotgun with it, just kind of trying to take you on this journey with them as best as we can. And for the most part, the response has been outstanding. So like you said, still be sure to like, share, rate, review, subscribe to that YouTube channel. Views are going up, comments are going up, subscribers are going up. So all good vibes here at the Overtime Podcast.
Well, and happy Wednesday, by the way, as we're finally able to get into the locker room and see how the vibe is after the win, after Monday, and then being off on Tuesday. What was the vibe like in the locker room after the biggest win this season?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and answer, kind of give you a two-part answer, because the vibe inside the locker room has been pretty similar despite a win or a loss. By the time Wednesday rolls around, they're ready to work, ready to get to the next week. Now, the difference, obviously, in this one is you're coming off your best one of the season, and you've got some legitimate things on both sides of the ball you can legitimately build on and take with you. The vibe inside the locker room, as far as I can tell, is exactly as it's been in week 4, week 3, week 2, week 1. And that's generally what you get inside a professional locker room by the time Wednesday rolls around, especially this early in the season, especially with a team that is 3-2. Outside with fans and media, it's interesting because it's a calm. I don't know if I would call it a confident calm. It's more like a wait-and-see calm. Even Derek Carr's press conference today was quick, which is not usual over the last 4 weeks. We had a lot of things to talk about with the quarterback. He was injured. Offensive had, they've had some issues. But today it was a lot of pretty straightforward questions about the Texans, a lot of questions about C.J. Stroud. It was pretty quick. He was pretty in and pretty out. The calm in the fan base, though, is a little bit of an eerie calm, in my opinion, because I still feel like the critics are out there. They know they have to be silent after that win because it was a 34-0 win, and they're just kind of waiting for that opportunity. And look, it's up to the Saints to not give them that opportunity by taking a step back after you took a nice step forward in New England over the Patriots. So, you do your best to us being kind of in the middle here to paint the picture of both inside and around the organization. That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, inside it's the work week. This is their Monday. But outside, I think there's an eerie calm. I think there's some optimists out there that just want to see it for a couple more weeks before they get all the way on board. And then there's obviously critics that want to jump all in and wait for the next opportunity to say this team, this coach, this quarterback, blah, 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 offensive coordinator, they're not going anywhere. So welcome to October in the NFL. It's the way it goes.
All right, so speaking of the offense, you got all the eyes on them heading into week 6. And, I mean, they're playing against a pretty good rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud. He might be missing his best weapon in Tank Dell. How do you think this offense can continue to build on what happened last week in Foxborough?
All right. So I'm just going to try to be as clear as I can in terms of what thing I saw the most that is, without question, the most positive development within this offense in terms of what is translatable and what is the one thing that I think will unlock everything in terms of where they want to go as an offense. It happened on Sunday. You go back and watch the film. It is confirmed. It is the first game of the season where Derek Carr and his offensive line were aligned. Now, what do I mean by aligned? That means Derek Carr trusted his guys up front, and his guys up front delivered. Just pause for a second and think about the first 4 games of the season. Game 1, Derek Carr trusted his line They didn't deliver. They were still able to come out of there with a win. Game 2, more problems. Derek Carr trusted his line. They didn't necessarily deliver. It was still a problem after Game 2, that Monday night game against Carolina. They were all off, and yet they were able to get the win. Game 3, I kind of felt like Derek didn't really have the same level of trust in that offensive line, and they were a mixed bag. He ended up getting injured in that game. They couldn't finish that game. Game 4, I felt like this was the one that was on Derek Carr because I felt like Derek Carr lost trust in that offensive line, and that line delivered for him. And then probably went back and watched some of the things that I saw was there were more times he could have stayed in the pocket, been more patient, let plays develop. Instead, he was quick to leave a spot, quick to get to his check, quick to go to the outside of the field where there was safety. Game 5 was the first time Derek Carr trusted his guys up front, and his guys up front delivered. Nothing else matters. That's why it's so important. Nothing else matters with this offense, not players, not personnel. If that relationship, if that symmetry does not come together, nothing else matters. It's always going to look like week 1. It's always going to look like week 2. Erratic, disjointed. A play here and there, but inefficient. You just don't, not the smoothness, not the rhythm. That's not to say they had this perfect rhythm, perfect smoothness throughout the game against New England, but you could tell, especially after that third down completion of Michael Thomas, they felt something. They had felt something. So that symmetry had to come together. They've officially crossed that threshold, which to me is the most important development of this offense, really of this entire season, because as I mentioned, Sil, you're not going to go anywhere offensively if you don't have that symmetry. Because think about it. If a quarterback doesn't have protection, nothing else, he's running for his life, and it's always going to be out of whack, erratic. If a quarterback doesn't trust his protection, there's going to be plays that he misses on the field. That's what you saw the first 4 weeks of the season. Now think about how Game 5 was executed against New England. Wasn't perfect. They had some blemishes, but that was there from offensive line to quarterback. That trust, that belief was there. And it's a new quarterback, new system, new team, new guys up front. That was probably the part, the chemistry part, that we overlooked. Because when you're in training camp, you don't really see that.
No.
When you're in mini camp, you can't really see that. They're not in pads. But when it comes to the games and when it comes to the regular season, you certainly do see that. And fortunately, they figured it out by Game 5. Now, the key is what's next. What's next is consistency. You can't go back. You can't go back now. Offensive line can't go back to being erratic. Derek Carr can't go back to not being sure of what his protection is going to be. Can't go back. And hopefully, now that this barrier has been broken, now that this sort of, the ice has been broken, if you will, hopefully now the evolution of this offense can take place. The next phase of this offense can take place. I think glass half full here, by seeing this development, maybe now you can see a string of these games of solid rhythm, solid control, solid identity, solid efficiency. Dare I say, maybe this offense catches a little bit of fire. Maybe this offense, we see a stretch of, highly functioning offensive play on that side of the ball. We see a stretch of playmaking. We see a stretch of, them basically controlling the game. Derek Carr, wide receivers, running game, offensive line. I know for a fact, and it's not hard to figure out, it's not like I have some insider information here, that is what the Saints envisioned when they brought Derek Carr here.
Right.
To be that type of offense that has rhythm, identity, consistency, efficiency, sprinkled in with explosive plays, and just being an overall command, an overall control of every game they play in. Hopefully that's the case here for the next string of the games, because that's where they need to be, especially at this point in the season, especially at this point of where they're at in the evolution, because I think, you're seeing individual playmakers. All the wide receivers have made plays.
Yep.
You saw Alvin Kamara ran behind that line, and we didn't bring this up. We should. He was phenomenal. Not good, not great, phenomenal in blitz pickup.
Yeah.
Phenomenal in blitz pickup on Sunday. He was outstanding. You see an offensive line that's getting confident. You know, some guys that got called out a little bit. And I think you're seeing a quarterback that's getting more and more comfortable. So, does that make me a homer? I don't know. But I do think that was the development that I saw that I think can translate. Now, the key is consistency. If they go back on either direction, then you got to question whether or not it can come together and be a dominant offense or an efficient offense for the rest of the season. But I think if you look at it, that had to happen. And nothing else can truly develop or evolve until that came together. And that was probably an overlooked part of the process, but I think they found it now. And hopefully that translates next week. And look, that was a team against New England. They do a lot of shifting, a lot of like send one guy, drop another, mix up their fronts, mix up their coverages. So hopefully they've crossed the threshold, because I know that's where the Saints want to be on the offensive side of the ball.
Saints' opponent this week is the Houston Texans. They've only faced the Houston Texans 5 times in these franchises' history, and they're 0-2 at Houston when playing the Texans. So what is there to expect against Houston this week, at least at this point? We'll dive into more on Friday, but I wanted to get a preliminary
That's a great point, because I had forgotten that they had never won there. I remember the last time they went there, it was one of the worst games I'd ever seen them play. It was 2015. It was under the former head coach. Obviously, Drew Brees was quarterback. They just never – that was the game where J.J. Watt is, like, mic'd up, and he is just taunting. I think it was Streif, and then it was Armstead. He was just dominating. But, you know, this is a new franchise, new quarterback, new coach. They seem to be a good – the alignment between their offensive coordinator and quarterback, you see some modern formation, some modern things that they're doing. He seems to execute it pretty well, sees the middle of the field well, doesn't turn it over. I still think the matchup favors the Saints defense here, and I still think they can shut him down enough to where they come out and we're seeing another performance where the Saints gave up less than 20 points. I really do. So I do think the Saints can win this game in Houston.
All right, and obviously the game kicks off at noon Central. I believe we're carrying it on Fox this week, or is it on CBS?
I think so. Yeah, we'll check it out. But we got our work still remains the same.
Exactly, but we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching the Fox 8 Overtime podcast. For Sean, I'm Vasilios. We'll see you guys.